ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Lanius, newly elected president, but you've seen me for a couple of years on the board. Thank you for joining us today. The sole purpose of this meeting is to inform owners of the bid that we accepted last week for the roofing project and roofing replacement of the outlying properties, High Point, Pinecone, Gamble Oaks. We're going to explain the option we chose. There were a number of options, and also put out what that means to each owner as far as amounts and scheduling of payments. Because we're looking at about a 1.5 years, possibly 2-year project. Some of that's weather dependent. I'm going to call the meeting to order with John Niebling to confirm that we have a quorum, John.
Yes, I think I can confirm that in the sense that I see 4 board members in the room, or 3.
4.
4 board members in the room, and then Greg and I on the meeting via Zoom. So that would be 6 of the 7. And also, let me confirm that the board members were properly notified of the meeting, in that they learned of the meeting Friday afternoon. So that meets the requirement for the notification of board members. So we do have a quorum, and the board was properly notified. Oh, and by the way, as soon as possible, owners were also made aware of the meeting.
Great, thank you, John. I am now going to hand this over to Mark. Just to confirm the order of things, we will not be having a vote today. We've already done that. That was at the last board meeting. We went into executive session. When we come into executive session on a bid, we come out, take owner comments, questions before we vote, but there were no owners. And so we went ahead and approved this bid. Mark is our roofing czar.
No, I'm an Excel operator.
So I'm gonna hand it to Mark now.
Okay. And I'll try to keep my throat clear. And if you can't hear me, please say so, because no one can ever hear me. So Friday, we accepted a bid from Higher Ground Roofing. Their bid was to put it'll be a 24 gauge standing seam roof. We went with a number of options, and we can plow that ground again, or you can simply listen to the both the workshop that we did last week, where the options were explained in great detail with photos, etc. And then we decided on the option on Friday of standing seam roof, 24 gauge standing seam. It's actually upping the gauge from what we had in the specs per the roofer's recommendation to 24 gauge. It'll be a standard color. I didn't bring the colors. It'll be a standard color. You can corner me in the parking lot and I'll show you the colors, but it's what's called a medium bronze. It's very similar to the bronze color at Fort Lewis campus. I personally think it's a tad lighter, but not much. We had choice of 4 colors: black, dark charcoal, dark bronze, and medium bronze. Anything more than that is 40% more for the materials. So, you know, and really the focus in all of this exercise has been, of course, thinking through 378 owners' interests and doing this with the best engineering solution at the lowest cost. So we could go with a beautiful speckled hammered coppered roof, add 40% to the material cost. This is a beautiful roof. It's a medium bronze. We're going with a lighter color. Mainly because a number of owners had said if it's too dark, it's going to draw heat in the summer, and especially with the 2-story units, it will just, you know, cause the upstairs to be warmer. And that's a problem with the 2-story units, no matter what, is they suffer a little bit from heat, more so than I think the 1-story units do, because of the way the ventilation system is designed. We chose the bid amount totaled, I got these numbers, 2,373,875. That included all of the materials purchased up front, and we'll get into a little bit more detail on how they have to be purchased. We keep that bid until October 1st. October 1st, we have no idea what those costs will be.
You have an extra one, Liz? I didn't get one.
You really want one?
You might not be able to read it. No,
Well,
really.
We're gonna put this up on, because
Okay.
It's too small to
It's
read.
ridiculous.
It's the nice thing.
But you know, in full disclosure, I ran these numbers an hour ago, so there wasn't a lot of time for formatting. But,
Wow.
yeah, that's what I just said. The project is designed, so we buy all of the materials up front. Roofing, down payment is required October 1st, which we'll talk about in a little bit, a minute. That puts us pretty well in a cash squeeze, but we think we can manage it. The project and roofing will be paid, and the materials can be paid for, essentially with 20% October 1, 20% November 1, and then 30%, then I can go to my spreadsheet, but it's, I believe May
1st.
1, and then 30% November 1 of next year. So we get to spread out the cost of the payment on the roofing, but we're able to fix the cost right now. And again, we need to make a decision by October 1, or we have to, more than decisions made, we've got to arrange for all of the payments by October 1. And some of those will come out of cash reserves in the short strokes. But at the end of the day, all of it will come out of assessments. So time is of the essence, and time is also of the essence because not only to get our price on materials, but there's one, I'll say, building up at High Point that's in terminal shape and has to be fixed this year. And all of that is accounted for in this plan.
I think he said 2 buildings at High Point he would do before.
Well, right now, these numbers that I'm gonna put up here in a little while, presume 1 building.
Okay,
And there is 1 building that's terminal. It's a north and east building up at High Point that's in the shade, and 2 people had very bad winters last winter, and the prediction is if we don't fix it, they'll have very bad winters this winter. The project will go for about 2 years. Ross believes he will have things sewn up at the end of August of 2025. The general plan is to start at High Point and move south. However, one of the options that we talked about today that is plausible, and we just may do it, is maybe move around a little bit and rather than have tunnel vision on individual outlying units, be a little bit more flexible and go to some of the different units where the roofs are the worst. So for example, some of the east facing pine cone roofs are worse off than some of the west facing High Point roofs. But that's just something that we'll deal with in operations as the project goes on. The beauty of all of this plan is we have the flexibility to do what we want. By doing it the way that we chose, we lock in our price of materials right now. Steel, anyone that looks at what we could have done the lodge 3 years ago for those shingle prices, we saw how inflation ate us up. The prediction is on steel with new union contracts and such. Certainly the price is not going to go down. So this is a good deal for us. And what we're getting out of US Steel is what's called a production run. We're going to get all of the steel manufactured in 1 lot. US Steel will allow us to order it over time, warehouse it at their factory for no cost. But the main thing is we commit to buying that production run right up front. Labor is guaranteed for the life of the project. That's the risk the contractor is taking on. So essentially, we save by doing it this way, cash costs up front about $200,000 over doing each unit and bidding each unit separately. We guarantee the price right now. There is we eliminate inflation risk over the next 2.5 years. And we also eliminate other intangible risks, supply chain risks, internal risk management, decision-making risks, things that could delay a roofing project and maybe even take it out beyond 3 years, which would take it at a minimum if we were to do individual clusters. So that, in a nutshell, is the reason for going with the option that we did. Again, for a lot more detail, we had a workshop Thursday of last week. Was that right? I'm losing
Tuesday.
track of time.
Wednesday?
But
Thursday was the
No,
board meeting.
it-
Tuesday or
It's
Wednesday?
Tuesday.
It's online, and pictures, pros, cons for each options are clearly listed on each one, and that gives you a lot more detail than I just recapped right now. With that, the board elected to go with the bid, and I've crunched numbers last week and today, essentially a ministerial exercise, going through and calculating costs on what the board decided last week. And what the board decided was to go with Ross's bid, and based on precedent, to just go with a cost per square foot of the units, based on a number that is on the back of every one of your papers. And what that shows is,
I didn't get them.
well, those are all on the counter. I made 20, so there's plenty.
Should we pull anything up here?
Gary, for the people that are on the screen, maybe could we pull these up?
Which one do you want to look at?
Why don't we
first?
look at, it doesn't matter which one of the clusters we use at the back page is the same. One is Pine Cone, one is High Point, one is Gamble.
I assume by the back page, you
That's
mean
it.
this page?
That's it. So the way we calculated the cost per square foot is we took the,
Hang
He has
on,
to share
hang
the
on
screen.
1 second.
or I did, again, it's ministerial, it's Excel spreadsheets at work.
Oh, here, that's one of each, there's one sheet for each complex.
So the number of units in the outlying areas were divided by the total square footage of the outlying areas. And that was divided into the total bid amount to give us $11.89 a square foot for the cost of calculating the assessment. And everybody in all 241 units will be assessed $11.89 according to the square footage of their unit. Pretty simple concept. On the front, depending on whose unit whose unit you're looking at, Pine Cone, Gamble Oak, or High Point. Each unit the metrics are included in the box in the bottom. That includes the footage of each one of the individual units, and that's according to the TACO records that Gary provided me. Then it's simply multiplying that footage times $11.89 to come up with the gross assessment that each individual will be charged.
Are we leaving it open for questions right now?
No.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wait for those kind of questions later, but that is the $11.89. What the board agreed to on Friday. This is how again, these are ministerial calculations. Based on what the board decided on Friday, this is how the numbers fall. So, for example, and I'll go to Gamble Oak because that's where I live, and
That's what's on the board too.
oh, okay. So, for example, the A units are shown to have 735 square feet. And the cost per unit will be $8,742. And it may be some change, but I rounded off the zeros on all of these. Ditto for the B units, they're $1,292. The C units are $1,430. The S units are $525. I think, just as an editorial comment, I think that if you Google price for me personally, and I've been working on this all summer, many hours all summer. I was quite pleased with the dollars that we ended up with. I was holding my breath for almost twice this much. If you look at the range for standing seal. I was surprised when the numbers finally rolled in. I want to add one other thing though, going back to the options. We elected not to go with insulation. For several reasons. And I'm not even talking about shingles now. Shingles just fell off the decision list very quickly for a lot of engineering reasons. But insulation, the roofer recommended no thicker than 6-inch, and it's nailable foam. 6-inch gives about R22, which isn't a lot. It adds about $1 million to the job. That really caused pause right there. And for me, I was an advocate of insulation, and as I studied it more and more, I decided it didn't really make sense, and the board agreed. The cost was $1 million across the entire complex. It didn't give a lot of value. If it was R38 or R42, it may have even given more consideration, but 22 wasn't that much for what you were paying. And then when we started studying the surgery that was going to be required to raise the roof elevation 6 inches, to me it seemed like looking at for trouble. We would have had to saw every single one of 160 stucco faces to bring the roof up 6 inches, to reflash it. And with all of that, and given a number of owners would like to see insulation, those owners, an option that is probably going to cost about their pro rata share that it would have cost for going outside. You could put in a false ceiling and put in insulation on the inside and drop your ceiling and put your plank appearance that you've got now. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it would be a per owner election. It wouldn't be required across the board for something that we didn't think was in the best interest of the entire association, 378 people. That's why we went without insulation. These are the numbers. And next week, talk about how the assessments could fall. Gary, can you put that Excel file up, and maybe either you work your way through it, or I'll come over and sit in and work your way through it.
Maybe we can make that a little bigger.
Can you make it?
Yeah, but it won't.
No, we're
No,
gonna,
that's
you
fine.
want me to
Scroll. Yeah.
Okay, so. Again, down at the bottom, we see the basic metrics. And I'll try to improve this for general distribution when I get a little bit more time for formatting, but this is just the stuff that you can do in an hour.
Hang on 1 second. I just want to make sure. John, are you seeing the spreadsheet? The Excel sheet?
We are still seeing the assessment based on unit size.
That's what I thought.
While you're going there, Gary, I'll just give a little more explanation. So the assessment number is the assessment number. A second benefit of this project is it's going to take time, and all the money's not spent at once. So there's flexibility in terms of the schedule by which the assessments can be paid. And that's what this spreadsheet's going to get to here in a second. I'm going to go through the numbers. No one's seen this yet, including the board. And what these numbers show aren't perfect, but I think they're going to be plausible. But given it's a project that goes through August of 2025, it's hard to say, isn't it, 2025? But August of 2025, it is feasible to break the assessment down into 4 pieces at 6-month intervals and have the cash runway needed to do the project by those 4 pieces. A little bit, we're going to have to be creative up front And we'll have to borrow some money from various places and put it back after the assessments come in. But like I said, time is of the essence to get the order in, or we don't know what the price is going to be October 2nd. Starting here, and what I did is first of all, on the top line, I've construction, those are the periods where we feel that there'll be construction activity. So what that means is those are the periods you're going to need cash for labor. The formatting is all the way the same all the way through the spreadsheet. I've got several lines here. The first is cash for materials. Those are the payments that we have to make to place our material orders and get the ball rolling and keep the price that we've got. So we have to have this year 40% of $1,170,000. We have to have 40% of that by December 1st of this year. 20% we need by the 31st of September. We lose our bid October 1st. So I put October 1st there. So we need 234 plus 234 for materials this year. We need $80,000 in labor to do the one building up at High Point. Round numbers. So those are the total cash that we need by December 1st this year is $568,000. If we do an assessment, and this is going to be fulsome board discussion in a minute, but say October 15th, for 1/4 the amount, that would provide $684,000. That would provide the cash that we need to get the project started. And again, being as kind as we can to owners and their cash requirements, breaking it up into fours. Now, anyone that wanted to pay everything all up front and just have it out of their system would gladly do that, because there's going to be some owners that have delays in making their payments. And what's really important is that that early on in the project, we're able to get our orders in. And what's really important is those people in that northeast corner building on High Point have a good winter. So that's what's going to be required. Moving on, and again, some of the months I just didn't put dates because there's nothing happening in those months. So we have construction activity the last 3 months of this year. Moving on, Gary, if we could please. So now we're into 2024. That's next year. Ross thinks that he will, and again, this is guesstimates, but Ross is feeling that he will be able to start right around in April sometime, snow will break, and he will be able to start the roofing process. He believes he could get as much as two outlying units, Pine Cone and maybe and High Point and Pine Cone, or maybe half of some of them done next year, and have one remaining unit in 2025.
What are you calling a unit?
He means
I don't use clusters because I've learned that that's a bad word. Outlines,
outlying properties. Outlying
complex.
Complexes.
You know,
Yeah.
again, let me go say it another way. Something like High Point and Pine Cone
Okay,
can be done
gotcha.
next year. And something like Gamble could be done the following year, or pieces of each next year, depending on what the roofer looks at and maybe our maintenance people look at and determine are the priorities. Is it a priority to be tunnel vision on a unit, or is it a priority to fix the roofs that are worse?
So you say the shaded areas.
Now, the top shaded area shows construction.
So that,
Go-
so
go-
I'm looking at that one there.
Yeah,
and
now
that
go back.
Wait a minute. So that looks like to me like you're actually doing construction.
Sorry.
Okay, I see the cell.
Yeah,
This
that's the-
March is, you got it shifted over to the right there. Okay, I'm good. All right.
Okay, just, And that is just the 106,277. All that is the remaining labor across the remaining months. It's divided out. Go back to the far left again, please, Gary.
Can we freeze the panes? Like click
Can we
on
freeze the
cell,
panes?
click on cell C4,
You
Gary.
need to enable editing.
What do we want?
Go to cell C4. And click. Click there and then go to freeze panes.
I'm sorry?
In view. We see that, or right click, try right clicking in that.
And what is it you want to do?
I want to freeze the panes.
Oh.
Joe, you're the expert. How do
No,
you
not
do
on the row, just on that cell, Gary,
Oh, whoops.
just on that cell, because that'll freeze it across the top and to the left. So click on that cell and then freeze the panes.
You freeze paint. Oh, it's not letting him do it. Did he? I've never frozen just one pane.
If you click on that cell, it'll freeze everything to the left of it and everything above it. Instead of just clicking, freezing a row, it freezes columns and rows. Now click freeze panes.
There you go.
And you
Okay.
should be able to scroll to the right, but you can still see your column B.
Okay, so great. So as now I've shown the cash required for labor and the total cash. The next row shows the cumulative cash that we'll need as the project moves forward. And that's an important line because we need to compare that with the cumulative assessment money and see how we see if we've got money in the bank to pay the piper. So let's go ahead and move to the right, Gary, just slowly. So, as you can see, we're now into April of 2024, and we've got cumulative cash of requirement of 674, and we've got income. We just got an assessment in May. We've gone 6 months, or in April, we've gone 6 months. Now we're cash rich. Keep going. We have another, the expectation is that we end the project next year in November. No, don't.
You mean
because-
pause the project next
Well,
year?
we pause the project because winter comes.
Yeah,
Here, Joe, I want Joe to see this because he's gonna gasp. We aren't cash positive there. But it's not a lot, and I think we could probably, the other option is if we don't go quarterly, we're gonna have to go thirdly. And this is a case where we go quarterly, and this is the only problem in the entire project where we go negative on cash.
well,
Just from assessments, though.
Based on assessments, based on quarterly assessments. And again, the focus is what can we do to spread out the assessments for the benefit of owners?
so,
Where are we?
well, wait,
negative?
Mark, so under November 1,
You know what I-
where the cash required is 2,120,000,
And
and the cumulative income is 2,053,000.
Yeah.
But this only considers special assessments.
that is correct.
Okay, so
That's what I'm saying.
so we should be okay
If we can move,
because we're gonna come up with enough money to start to get that first payment.
well, no, but this is the cumulative amounts as you move through with special assessments against spending.
Right,
Mhm.
but we're gonna get ahead of that by,
Well, this is the only month or the only period that we're gonna be behind the 8 ball for this period until the assessment comes
but
in April of 2025.
I get that, but what I'm saying is that in November 1st of 2024, the cumulative assessment income, you have to consider plus the amount of money that we contribute,
That you got available.
that we have
That is
available
correct.
now that
That
we
is
can
correct.
put towards it. It'll put us above that, and so really the net is that we'll be still ahead of the game.
That is correct. This is purely cash from assessments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that,
So I'm not gasping, I'm okay.
well, I don't know. I'm
Very
gasping.
calm to me.
I don't know, whenever my checkbook goes in the red, I gasp, but, it's no different than we are right now, where we're gonna have to go into reserves to get the project started, because we won't get the assessment money in until, you know, 6 weeks.
15th of next month.
and we have to,
Or-
have- and we have to.
Or unless we have some benevolent owners who decide to pay it ahead of time. I'll sign up for that.
So then in 2025, we have the last assessment. It brings us up to the 237,875. And then we just worked, and you know, the beauty is all the materials have been paid for by then. And that's just labor. And we work through the project till it's over sometime later in 2025. So that's cash wise how you justify spreading it out among 4 payments, interest free among the owners.
Let me ask, because I know people are wondering. When you say that that's our assessment only and it doesn't include what we're fronting from reserves. Is that fronting from reserves going to be reimbursed once
Yes.
we're cast positive?
Yes,
Okay. And we also have a 5% contingency built
Built
in, and if we come back ahead of that contingency, that's going to be refunded.
So do we have a number for October 15th? Because we're buying
Yeah.
materials.
Well, October
We're not
15th,
doing-
if you want a number, October 15th, if we go with divided by 4.
Right, but we're just buying material, correct?
No, we have $80,000 of labor we have to pay for by November 1st. So they can do the one building up at High Point
Okay.
this year.
but we need a payment on October 1st, don't we?
Go back,
I thought it was October 15th.
October 1st, we need 20% of materials. And Ross needs $20,000 to, and what he's gonna do is he's gonna go in and start stripping those units in High Point right away. You know, as soon as the project,
So the 274 is what we need October 1st.
October
Yes,
1st,
yes.
we need, the cumulative cash required is 374 November 1st. And the cumulative cash required December 1st is 568. And the cumulative income, if everybody pays 25% of their assessments, will be 684. If some, and you know, hopefully some people will pay everything all up front. And if somebody, and again, once we get the real numbers, we can adjust this worksheet.
So with 20,000 for labor on October, then 60,000 for labor November 1st.
Right.
So that's, $80,000 worth of labor to do 2 buildings?
To do one building.
To do one building.
8 units.
Now, when you say building, are you talking about just one condo?
One,
Mm-mm.
one building.
Oh, one building.
One
Okay.
building.
All right, I got you. Okay.
And so on October
8 units.
1st,
That's-
if we
that's
don't
budgeted
have
for
the
8 units.
274, that's where we'll front some of that with reserves to be replenished, because we're gonna have a slight timing difference here.
Right.
It's a combination of reserves and other liquid cash that we've established.
Correct. So, yes.
Elisa did an analysis of our cash flow situation, so we have reserves plus some operating funds that we can allocate with an eye toward putting it back.
Yes, and it will be very important that we get some owners to pay in
Right,
full.
Yeah, we need to appeal to
And-
owners who
and-
can afford it
So
to
that we
pay
can pay the rest of. the
tomorrow.
And if I could add just one other thing, and again, this is you know how spreadsheets are, you can run different cases all day. But that 684 assumes that
Yeah.
everybody pays their 25%. Okay, and you saw we run into the $100,000 red. If 25% of the people or 20% of the people paid all up front, we would never have a negative cash problem. And I suspect that that's gonna happen, but we might as well, you know, for today, let's just look at the worst case.
So just so I'm clear. On December the 1st, they're going to complete a building at High Point.
One building or two?
One,
Just
One
one.
eight units, weather permitting.
Okay,
What Ross is, what the roofer has said, and I believe him, is he believes that there are some winters, he said he can be putting steel up right into December, weather permitting.
okay.
He said if it's a nightmare scenario and all of a sudden we have El Nino strikes and we start with a foot a day on October 16th.
Okay, I'll get you.
He
I
can
just
have
wanted
his
to make sure I
water
understood.
shield. And they'll be leak proof for the winter with water shield.
Got it.
And we won't have the labor cost.
No, I understand.
But you know, again, I saw a picture of one of the owners up there. She lived last winter with a shower curtain and a 5-gallon bucket.
We had some problems at Headlands.
Wow.
So again, I think back to, I think a question we got a minute ago. So let's just take me, a unit. 8742. If
This is Gamble Oak.
gamble up at Pine Cone's the same number for A
Okay.
units. You can explain High Point.
Okay,
Can you go to where it has the units? He's doing a unit. And I don't know.
High Point's a little bit funky, but we're still going base gross square footage according to the go good to the numbers.
Okay, I got you.
that's it, Andy.
No, I see it now. I
So it's
did.
8742 divided by 4. The first assessment number will be $2,185.
That doesn't sound like very much. Can you handle some of mine too? Just
You're which one? You're the presidential
C.
suite?
Yeah, Andy with us, Andy and I got C units, that's gonna be $4,500.
Well, and
I said, "Hey, you're so light, you can pick up.
well, quite
donuts."
frankly, I know a number of people in Cameron who have 3 units.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I feel for them. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah,
You know, or if you had the presidential unit up in High
Point.
Point,
yeah. Yeah, it's gonna get costly for some of
But-
those, yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, what we've done is we've really added value here for the owners. How do you look at a standing steel roof, you know, for our 50-year roofs that are just architecturally really, really beautiful? They're inert, they're true 50-year roofs. What's the curb appeal? It's curb appeal. What's that curb appeal? It's not gonna be less, that's for sure. And it's just, I just think it's something we're gonna be really proud of.
Hey, Mark, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You mentioned that owners will be encouraged to pay their full assessment upfront, and that would certainly help cash flow issues. What incentive would there be for an owner to do that other than just goodwill?
That's it. That's
I think
all.
at this point, that's all we can offer.
And we can't offer discounts because that would cut into cash flow.
You know, we've got a 5% contingency on this. I can tell you from my private world. If I ever brought a cash contingency into the board of 5% and they said, that's all the slop we've got, I'd be pointed to the door and say, go rework your numbers. We work, and it really reflects, in my opinion, in our entire budgeting process, we work on a tight rope. And 5% to me is a tight rope. We went, what did we go for the lodge for contingency? I don't remember. Was
It was 75, it was a flat number, it was 75,000.
And that was, of course, because of the rot that we expected on the east side. It never happened.
But that represented probably close to 10% of the
Mhm.
contract value.
You know,
But we expected to find rotted decking up there and we didn't.
and it's good to be wrong.
Yep.
I think on the exterior remodel, we probably did 15.
Probably, but I don't recall, but you're
And,
probably right.
we've,
yeah.
and you know, rot, given the heavy, thick nature of our roofs, which absolutely eliminated the asphalt completely because it wouldn't hold. Probably we're not gonna see any rot. I can't see how we'll see rot in thick roofs. But 5%
Look,
to
we
me,
have-
for
we have-
example,
If we have to replace those roof boards, that's a nightmare.
yeah, tell our insurance people about it.
That's 4-inch thick tongue and groove.
But you know, there's other things that we're considering. We're considering on some of the units, not all of the units, we may have to extend the edge of the roof just a little bit because they're short. There's little things that I think will lead into that 5% that we really don't have quantified right now.
Mark, are these numbers hard numbers? Are they set in stone?
Here's what I would say is, they're set in sandstone.
Nice.
I think they're pretty good, but I would especially the spreadsheet, the detailed spreadsheet.
This is all subject to getting a finalized signed
Yeah,
contract with Roth.
and again, all of these
Checking
numbers,
your math, or is that what you're?
these I check my math pretty carefully. The one that the Excel spreadsheet, I check my math kind of carefully. It's because I only had an hour, but I think they're right. You know, Excel's, formulas generally don't lie. But
5% doesn't sound like much, but the metal itself is a fixed price,
Fixed.
right? So that, how much
everything,
is that?
all
of the total?
materials is
Is
fixed.
that 40% of the total?
I'll
mean-
tell you what that is.
Labor is also fixed.
Labor's
Everything's
all-
But
fixed.
the number of hours aren't fixed.
No, this is a
Labor is
fixed
fixed.
price contract. This is.
Everything's fixed.
This is not a time.
For
and
2
material
years.
Contract.
What's the 5% for?
It's contingency.
In case they find
In case
something
they
out
find
of scope.
something we
Eric,
don't know.
let me
And
give
they
you an
can
case-
example.
It's a fixed
Eric.
price, it's a fixed price.
In case they find something outside the contract.
Eric, let me
limits.
give you some examples.
That's not a fixed
And
price.
then we're gonna take
Yes, no,
questions at
Eric,
the
Eric,
end.
It never done that.
Eric,
Yes.
let me
I
explain.
wrote contracts all the time.
So it's fixed price for standing seam roof.
Right.
Labor, materials.
It's it's fixed price for a defined project scope.
Yeah, but let me just give you some, for examples. Things that go outside the actual cost of the roofing, but that we have to do at the time we do the roofing. My unit needs a small lip extending the roof. That'll require just a small, a fascia board extending it. You can't hang roofing out 6 inches or it'll bend. That's not in the price. It's not gonna be expensive, but it's something that while we're fixing the roof, we should do that. There may be some other things. Over at Pinecone, we've got a slightly different situation on those units, those 10 units that are over the garages. And I don't know, even though we may even have to come back to that, but for the very reason that standing seam is the perfect choice for almost all of the outlying units. It sheds snow into the golf course. We've got problems at that 10 units at Pinecone where they've shed over the parking areas into the garage. Same problem that we had at the lodge. Don't know the answer to that yet. We need to keep 5% in those numbers to deal with those things when we have to. They're not in this bid. And we don't.
And
know
I
the
think it
answer.
would be good to know that if we didn't dip into that 5% at all,
Yeah, it goes back.
it goes back to the owner.
I'm going to, in looking at the schedule, ask if we have any more input from board members about the, what dates are these, Mark? We've got, October 15th for the first quarterly payment. And then I can't read the
Would
little
you bring,
one.
Gary, go back to the spreadsheet.
Looks like April.
Because no one with eyes can read this. I can. You don't have eyes. So we've got,
And then another-
and then I put it, I showed the money in the month that it
Mhm.
was there, but the assessment would be the previous month on the 15th.
So what are the 4 payment dates? Do we know that?
That's what we're trying
We're
to
doing
do
it right
now.
So that's
So
like
October 15th. April, is it
March 15th, because it,
3/15?
So October 15th, you're betting November 1, it's all there.
Right,
or it's due by,
3/15, and then the next one is. Is that, keep going,
September.
September 9/15,
Mhm.
and then 3/15 again.
Yep.
And it's a straight quarterly. 25% of the unit cost reflected. Now, this unit cost reflected. Has to be finalized when we get the contract, but this is pretty close.
I'll check the numbers again, but I hate to ever say 100% on anything, but I'm 100% on these numbers.
So as far as our discussion about the scheduling of the assessments, are there any more comments from the board?
No.
I would just remind that you did include a performance bond as part of that bid. So that's probably important to point out.
Yeah, and I had Paige today. She's verifying that that's gonna be in the contract.
And it's something that we need to probably talk about a little bit more and look closely. I don't know whether if this performance bond includes, you know, again, it would drop off as he executes the work, but if his performance bond is for 2 years at to assure 237 875. If we buy the materials and we have title to the materials up front, it may be that we can cut a little bit of slack there. You see what I'm saying?
Is he covering the cost of the performance bond?
Is it in?
It was in the,
Is it in the price of the bid? Is that
It
what I
was
want
in
to
the
know?
price of the bid.
In the price of the
It
bid.
was.
It was?
It absolutely was.
Did we have one for?
See that, well, that was the
Decided not
thing.
to.
We
On
did
on the
not-
roof,
why
it
don't
wasn't
we-
in the price of the bid.
What,
Do you have
I
the
mean,
bid
in the
handy,
lot.
Paige?
It was not in the price of the
and
Do you
so
have
we
the
never
bid
got,
handy?
bid. Well,
Do you have the
it
bid
was,
handy?
we decided
not to do it.
to waive it, yeah.
So why don't we do it on this?
Because it's a
Same
longer project.
Longer project
longer
with a lot
project.
more risk.
Are you finding it?
I have it here. I don't,
I thought it was in the bid package.
Was it part of the, what, was it part of the,
this is the.
RFP?
Now go to the bid
What,
package.
RFP?
Mhm.
It was, okay.
Let me see.
Glasses on. Handy those glasses.
Sure.
Yeah, glasses on.
You put it in the wrong one. I know,
It depends, Andy.
Andy, I know how that goes.
See, I have right here, see that? Isn't this nice?
I have bifocals of bifocals.
Does this make me look very smart?
It makes you kind of look like Santa Claus.
Oh, God.
Yeah, just grow the white beard down
Really,
there.
really.
Okay.
While he's looking, the other thing I would point out is we're still obviously in the process of working through the contract. He's going to send an initial draft. We're going to send it down to legal. We're going to need to make sure to have some language in there that, you know, he is taking responsibility for the materials that he orders and is responsible for the safeguarding of those materials over the course of the project.
You know, another point of interest, the way these roofs are built is they're built on site. What will be delivered to Tamron is coiled anodized colored steel and rolls. And then the standing seam panels are fabricated on site, rolled on site. We will have an individual panel go from the tip of the condo to the end of the condo. Single panel, no seams.
From the peak to the eave, no seams.
No seams. Then they will be, you know, rather than screwed to the wood, we will not have fixed roofs. We will have them clamped. So the steel and the roof can expand at differential rates. And then essentially, we don't have the example in here. We did.
Actually,
Oh, yeah, we
it's right
do.
there.
It's right there. And that's 40% more, by the way. So don't anybody get any good ideas. But the next panel clamps over the clamps, so you don't see it. And the roof is actually, our roof is actually a floating roof on top of the wood. So the wood and steel can expand at differential rates and you don't get what's called oil canning. One of the roofers pointed out to me, if you go look at the chapel up at Fort Lewis, they didn't do it that way. And you can see some of the oil canning because of the differential expansion and contraction in the panels. We won't have that. All of ours are going to be done the right way.
And Mark, the screws go in these clips, not through the panels. And then the panels snap down onto these clips. And so two panels side by side can actually move.
And that way, as opposed to other roof designs, you see some of the designs will actually have screws into the panel. Because of that differential expansion and contraction, periodically you have to do maintenance and go tighten your screws. Don't have to do it with this installation. The other thing that we'll be having installed is what's called high temperature underlayment. One of the problems that some of you have seen in the clusters is dripping through the
Complexes.
you know, into the complexes. Even mine didn't, but and that's because the underlayment that was used before was either not high temp or was just roof tar. Well, we're going to be going with a high temp product that will not melt. And like I said over there, it's gonna be water shield, so it's not durable, but in terms of permeability, the roof could hold water even if you didn't put shingles on it or standing seam for a short period of time.
Mark, is that the standard width?
That's the,
Of
that's how,
all of them?
that's the
That's
standard.
the panels, but not the color.
That's the panel, but it's gonna be
I think
head to toe,
Head to toe.
head to toe, and that, each panel's gonna be that width.
It'll be,
Yeah,
Okay,
you will drive down up from Durango and you look down on, and our roofs are prime architectural feature from the road. That's our curb appeal. And you will see just uniform ribbed panels from tip to toe, all across from the south all the way to the north.
Okay, do we have any other board member comments? No, we don't have a vote today. The motion that was approved last week was for the president to approve the schedule of assessments with input from the roofing committee and the treasurer. And given that, I think it's just best for owners' finances to spread the payments out over quarterly payments, and we have a contingency plan for any timing differences with respect to cash from the organization. I approve the schedule. Now, remember, amounts will be finalized as the contract is finalized, but this is very close. We don't expect any changes to result from that if we can get everything done by the October 1st date that he needs to lock down the quotes he received for the materials and the quotes he's provided for the labor. And so now I'd like to open for owner questions. On this topic, we're not taking questions on any other topics because this was the agenda for today. Margaret, if I'm going to start with you since you raised your hand first a while ago.
Yeah, I'm just unclear, I guess, maybe from the first, so I thought the Hoyt or the Tamron pays for the exterior and then we deal with the interior, but that's not true, right?
Well,
All of the roof is paid by us.
yes,
very simple answer here.
we are
You
Tamron.
pay for everything. You either pay for it through your dues or you pay through it through special assessments.
So that's
Yeah.
what I thought, I mean, dues are a lot, so that doesn't cover any of this.
True.
So it's all something beyond our dues, nothing in the dues already covering other things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a CapEx, this is a cap, by any definition, this is a big CapEx project.
Yeah.
It is outside budget.
Yeah.
And we are Tamron when it gets down to it. So in this case, there are not reserves being put towards
That's what I was wondering
the
about
purchase
this
of the roof.
reserve.
And Joe can elaborate a little bit more. He spoke to this in the owner meeting. And can elaborate more if needed. I have a feeling we might have some more questions come
Yeah,
up
that's-
from that.
I watched the board meeting, I did not watch the owner meeting, so I can do that.
Well, that was purely discussing the pros and cons of it. That was an engineering meeting. That wasn't a budget meeting.
Oh, I see, okay. Mhm.
Mary
Yes,
Keith,
ma'am.
number 744. Just wondering, what is the chance that we don't meet that October 1st deadline? Because we still got to have the lawyer look at the contract.
We all have our eye on that very, very firmly. He is actually providing the business office with the contract today for us to then circulate to our lawyers. So it's definitely moving with high priority.
And keep in mind, we already did one contract with him, so it's not like there's going to be radical differences between the contracts from a legalese perspective. It's more capturing the scope of this project.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
contractor that's doing the lodge, so the terms and conditions of the contract, which is the main thing that the lawyer's looking at, is gonna be just a duplicate of what we already have in the lodge.
We
project.
will make that date.
Yeah, we will.
By God, it's much, it's gone into getting to this far this summer. We will not let that date slip.
That's a good question, though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you never know about lawyers.
I
They're
don't
on
care.
their own time frame sometimes.
We
will make that.
we know our lawyer pretty well. He'll be fine.
Virginia?
Mark, I want to thank you so much for spending your whole summer. I couldn't
No,
think
no,
of
no, I
anything
play
worse to
golf.
do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, that was a beautiful spreadsheet done in a couple hours. Good job.
You gotta
Thank
see
you.
complicated ones.
Mary, did you have another question?
Yeah, Mark, because we're both Gamble Oak,
Mhm.
the standing seam doesn't cover where we already have metal
No,
on those.
No, no,
And if you
this
look-
is
if
just
you-
replacing. the
If
shade.
you look at the,
Okay.
please, go to the engineering thing last week, the workshop. I have a photograph of the standing seam and the color that we're gonna get against the corrugated, and they look
Right.
really good together.
And that's the same that's on the guest services.
Yes,
building?
but guest services is corrugated, so,
Okay,
and that's not included in the bids.
okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Dan?
Mark, I also want to thank you. I know that this project has been immense. I think the way you took it on, assuring that we had engineering, architectural, people that do this for a living. There's no swagging involved. You've taken it to the nth degree and analyzation to make sure the proper decisions were being made. I think we've all watched the crew that this gentleman has. And from everything I think we're all seeing, they're doing an outstanding job. I would expect nothing less in the underlying condos.
Thank
So
you.
this
And
has
Russell,
been an
thank you.
immense undertaking on your behalf and gaining the board's support and the owner's support. I applaud you for it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
And Ross will appreciate it. You know, again, these guys. How many projects do you do? At home, never mind this size, on time. Ahead of time. And I won't say anything about budget yet, but certainly it's looking good.
Well, and one thing that that means a lot to me with this company is they're working very well with our staff and maintenance and making it easy all around. You know, there have been no issues, no problems. The work's getting done, it's getting done well, it's getting done on time and on budget and they were very much the best bet, and the ability to lock down prices now, as we've all seen what's happening to prices and the price of labor in our country. That's a significant savings that we can't even quantify.
Well, I see US Steel and the big steel companies. I just see union contracts rolling right around the corner because they haven't had their pay raise to beat inflation yet.
Do we have any more questions in the room before we go online? Yes, Beth.
Since I'm in the prototype project here in the lodge, so I've kind of seen firsthand everything that happens, good and bad. But you indicated that we're probably ahead of schedule on that, and we haven't run into some of the problems you anticipated. So how does that work if we come out ahead on this process, since we're kind of the first ones to go through this?
Joe and Elise, I mean, the excess collected through your assessments, if we come out ahead, will be refunded to you.
Yeah, we didn't get the opportunity to spread ours out. It was kind of like, it done.
Right, because your project's not being done over a year and a half or 2 years.
Right.
Mhm.
You want me to tell you a story my engineer prop told me 50 years ago, the second lesson? Fast, good, cheap. You can't have all three.
Right,
The lodge we had to do fast.
right. And it wasn't cheap, but hopefully good.
We get on cheap and good out in clusters because we planned ahead.
No, it's a project. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Beth. Do we have any questions online? No comments, Gary?
There was one. Excellent work to everyone on the board. Thank you for all your work and effort. That was from Jason Cantelli.
Thank you, Jason. We appreciate hearing that.
Nobody out there has any questions, Gary? Okay.
Nothing, chat.
Okay, and if there are no more questions in the room, just watch as things get finalized. We will be keeping everybody informed as always. And thank you for attending today. And if you have questions, watch the workshop from last Tuesday. It was very informative and well done by Mark.
And let me just say one other thing, because it's been asked a lot. This is a lot. People are saying, well, the ice on the east side, blah, blah, blah. The way the design is working at the lodge, there will be hot edge underneath all of the new asphalt shingles, east and west. There won't be any hot edge underneath the existing standing seam because it exists. But there's people saying, well, how about on the backside, the ice is gonna still fall? No, it won't. It's gonna be hot edged, guttered, or hot edge, guttered with heated gutters, downspouts heated, and we can exit to the cliffs. So there will be no more ice falls on the east side.
Won't that be nice?
Stacy, Friday?
Unless we have an electric outage.
Friday, we're going to, Mark and I will be here for just Q&A. If anybody goes home and turns up a little bit and says, oh, I wish I knew this, I wish I knew that. We're just going to be available in case somebody couldn't make today. And that's at 9 o'clock. So
Is that a?
It's-
That's just a
it's-
follow.
that's just Q&A and
Q&A coffee.
yeah, just a Q&A. If you know, you go home and you think, oh, I forgot to ask this question. It's very informal. And with that, I will adjourn. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Stacy, thank you